Hey Houseguest, welcome to today's Big Brother 18 updates and spoilers. Our Houseguest of the day is fans. What up? I believe all the way from China, right? That's awesome. So thank you so much for your support. And if you guys want to be Houseguest of the day, check out our Patreon link in the info box below. Alright, so yesterday the Houseguests were all chilling out pretty much all day, just waiting for the Power Veto competition because it didn't start until like after 8 p.m. So they were just like, oh, when is it gonna start? So there was a lot of that, but it also left some time for scheming. So Frank and Nicole were chatting in the storage room, and Frank is pretty much assuming that either he or Bridget will win the Power Veto and come off the block. So he's like, Nicole, I want to see Day go up as the replacement nominee and we'll send her out. So he's like telling her, if we don't get rid of Day, your butt could be up on the block next week up against me, and that would suck for you. So Nicole's like, well, I'm worried that if you stay, you're gonna screw me over. How amazing was that HOH competition on the show tonight when Frank freaking called out Nicole in front of everybody? That's crazy. And she was just like, no, I didn't say that. Yeah, crazy. So Frank was like, no, what? I want to work with you and Corey, even though I freaking sold you out to Day at least twice. But he's just like, you know, all that aside, if I do leave this week, I just want you to look out for Bridget, work with her, because, you know, none of these other girls are going to do that. So then he's saying, if I do stay and I win HOH, I want to nominate Day and James, with Day being the target. And then obviously he would put up James because he put them up. So he's just returning the favor. But then, last but not least, he asks Nicole to throw the Power Veto to him. Alright, so then he's talking to Michelle and he asks her to do the same. He's like, throw the veto. And she's just like, but I really want to win something. And Bridget's like, well, just wait until you're up on the block and then you can win something. Really though, girl? Alright, so then a little while later, Frank and Bridget were talking about Michelle, and they're like, let's be real, she's never gonna win anyway. She's probably hardly ever on the show, and nobody knows who she is. Oh my god! It was almost like they were setting this up. So it's time for the Power Veto, and the players were James, Frank, Bridget, and the 3 extra players, Day, Michelle, and Nicole. And the host was supposed to be Natalie, but guess what? There was no host needed, no host necessary, because it was freaking OTEV. What? That's so early. Usually they don't do OTEV until like final 6 or so that's pretty crazy. But they stuck with the rave music festival theme that they've been going with this week. So much fun, I love it. And guess what? Michelle won. Oh my god. I feel like Frank and Bridget, you know, they would have been super pissed anyway that they lost, but the fact that it was Michelle who beat them, they were livid. And I'm pretty sure that the final 2 in the competition were Michelle and Bridget, and 3rd place was Frank. So, whoa. Alright. So Michelle was going a little over the top with her celebration. Pretty much everyone except for Frank and Bridget were celebrating, like dancing in the the storage room, and like kissing the veto, and it was like really over the top. Michelle kept saying, "This is Sparta." I don't know what that has to do with this, but she was really into it. And then meanwhile, you've got Frank being like, "This is the 2nd time that OTEV is gonna send me home." That's so sad. Okay, so Frank and Bridget were commiserating after their loss, and Frank was like, yeah, it sucks that I'm gonna be going home, possibly, but he feels really bad that Bridget's gonna be all alone next week. So Bridget's like, yeah, but like, I don't want to go to jury with all those girls. Like, she's saying that she would almost rather just go home this week before the jury starts. So then James joins them, and Frank is like, is there any way that we can work together to convince Michelle to use the Power Veto, and then you can put up Day on the block? And James is like, I'm not sure, like, we're gonna have to talk to her and kind of feel that out, meaning hell no. So then James is telling them, like, it's just a game, guys, like, no hard feelings, it's just a game. But Frank brings up, like, don't let people be mean to Bridget next week. Like, make sure those girls are nice to her. So we're going to be hearing a lot of that this week. But then Frank and Bridget were alone again, and Frank just starts going off. He's pissed about losing. He's pissed about everyone's reaction. He's pissed that it's Michelle that beat him. He's pissed at James just saying that it's just a game. So then he takes a break from that for a second, all of his anger aside, and he's talking about, like, maybe there's a chance that one of them could get a special power this week and save both of them. A special power, you say? Do you guys think that Frank is gonna get this freaking special power? I feel like if he does, people are gonna lose, like, live feeders and stuff are gonna lose their shit, because it's gonna just seem so rigged, even if he really did just figure it out by himself. But I wouldn't be surprised if that diary room was dropping some hints this week. Alright, so then they got back to some crap talk, and Frank was saying if this plan does not work to get Davon up on the block, maybe he'll just take a crap and throw it at James. Or he was gonna, like, take a dump in everyone's beds. I don't know. And then Bridget was like, well, I'm gonna bake every day and fatten everybody up so they're sluggish for all the competitions. These two, I mean, they come up with some real diabolical plans here. But anyway, Frank, he's getting back to work. He was chatting with Paulie in the safari room, and he's like, look, if we all go to James and we all tell him that we want day out this week, maybe he'll do it, because he's all, I'm going to do what the house wants. So Frank is like, let's make it happen. But you gotta remember, that would mean that Michelle would have to use the veto first, and she doesn't want to. So Paulie's like, well, I don't know if that's gonna happen, but if you two are still up on the block, like, I'm gonna try and make it so that Bridget goes home this week and not you. And Frank is like, yeah, I'm not gonna campaign against Bridget. Like, he just doesn't want to do it. He's saying that now anyway. And he's saying if this replacement nominee thing doesn't work out, it looks like I'm going home. So again, he tells Paulie, look out for Bridget next week. So he's, like, really pushing the whole Bridget is bullied all the time thing. He's trying to get some sympathy going for her. And I think it could actually work out for Bridget if she's around next week, because people are going to be like, ugh. Alright, especially Paulie. He's a real sucker for that. So Paulie goes to the Tokyo bedroom to talk to Nicole and Corey. And here it is. He feels really bad because all the girls were cheering for only Michelle at the end of the OTEP competition, and nobody was cheering for Bridget. And he's like, also getting really annoyed by Zakia's jealousy and her whole trying to make things happen with him showmantically. He's like, no, I said no, and he's trying to focus on the game. So he's tired of her, like, playing all these mind games. So then they agree that they'd be cool with taking out Day next week instead of Bridget. So we've heard them talk about this before, but now they're saying, like, oh yeah, Bridget's going to be all alone, like, it'll be really easy to scoop her up, she's going to need a new team, and she's really good at competitions, so we'll keep her around for a while, get rid of Day next. And then Paulie's like, and if the girls, like Michelle and Zakia, aren't happy about it, he'll just go ahead and put one of them up next to Day. Yeah. So then Corey's like, or we could get Victor or Paul to do our dirty work so that we don't have to put up Michelle or Zakia, or Day for that matter, because Day is going to be pissed about that. But anyway, Michelle was talking to her group, and they're all warning her, like, Frank is going to try to get you to use the veto, just letting you know. And she's like, oh, I know, but, like, it's not going to happen. So then she's telling them, like, I'm not planning on using it, but she's going to try and use it to her advantage to get some information from Frank and Bridget. And she makes it very clear that she wants Bridget to go this week. And she makes it extremely clear that it is personal. This is not a game thing. She freaking wants Bridget out for personal reasons. So back to Paulie and his big mouth. I mean, I feel like he's making a mistake right here, but he reveals his potential nominations plans to Bridget, Victor, and Frank. So he's telling them, like, oh yeah, if I win HOH next week, I'll put up Day and her little protege, Zakia. And he said that. And he's saying that he's pissed at Zakia. She's rubbing him the wrong way because apparently she was talking about, like, student athletes, and she was saying, like, I got no respect for them. They just skate their way through college. And as we know, Paulie was a student athlete, and he was just like, what the F? So he was really pissed that Zakia said that. I don't think it was very smart for him, though, to tell, like, Frank and Bridget that he would put her up on the block, because then they could just turn around and tell her that, and it's not good. But then Paulie said about Zakia, you want to be shielded? Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Well, shit! Alright, so it's time for Frank to start wooing Michelle into using the veto this week, or at least trying to get her to use the veto. So he's like, yeah, use the veto. I mean, he said more than that, but Michelle was just like, I want Bridget to go this week, not you, Frank. And Frank is like, or we could shake things up and keep both of us. So he's really trying to appeal to her super fanness. He's like, this is what the viewers want. They want you to flip the house this week. They want you to make the big move here. And the big move would be to use the veto on one of us, put up Day, and get rid of her. So Michelle's like, yeah, but Day's not coming after me, and Bridget definitely is. And Frank's just like, no, like, Bridget's not coming after you. What? Of course not. So then Michelle's like, oh yeah, she said that she's gonna shave my eyebrows. And of course, Frank is like, she said she didn't even remember saying that. Just like Frank didn't remember calling Day a slut. Am I right? Alright, so then, new strategy. Frank is trying to push the Category 4 team working together as, like, a solid, legit alliance. He's like, me, you, Paulie, and Bridget, we're all good at competitions, we're all winners, like, let's freaking do this and steamroll the rest of the house. And Michelle's like, I don't want to work with Bridget. And again, she says, it's personal. And Frank is like, that's really immature. And she's like, I don't care. So then, this conversation was going on for quite a while. So James, Paul, and Zakia are all going in there trying to break up the conversation. And Frank is just like, hello, we're talking here. I'm trying to get her to use the veto on me. Get the F out. So Paul starts freaking out. He leaves the room and he's just like, I'm so fired up right now. And he's pissed because he got kicked out of the room. And he's worried that Frank is going to convince Michelle to use the veto. And he's just like, Frank's gotta go. I just don't want him to weasel his way out of this again. He's gotta go. So he's like freaking out. And he's saying, oh, I want to call Frank out. I'm going to call him out on everything. And everybody's just like, no, stop. Don't do it. Yeah. Alright, so Paul does end up confronting Frank in the kitchen. Keep in mind, this confrontation happened at 4:51 a.m. So Paul's like, oh, so Frank, what happens if you get taken off the block? Like, who's going up in your place? And Frank is like, I don't know. I'm not the HOH, so it's not my decision, but are you worried, bruh? And Paul's like, well, I've been up 3 times, and I'm pretty sure that 2 of those were probably because of you. And Frank does own up to the roadkill, whatever, and then, you know, sort of influencing him going up the next week. But then he's like, I'm not throwing you under the bus, man. Like, relax. I'm not throwing your name out there. But he is saying, like, I'm on the block this week, and I'm not just going to lay down and die. Like, I need to make some things happen here if I want to stay in the house. So Paul is like, yeah, well, I didn't like that I was asked to leave the room before. And Frank was like, I asked everyone to leave the room. So then they decide to move this to a more private location. They go to the safari room, and Frank is like, yeah, I'm trying to get Day up on the block, not you, freaking silly. So then he's explaining how he's not going to campaign against Bridget if the 2 of them are still up on the block. So it's really like he's got to get Day up there or he's toast. So then Paulie and Victor join them, and Frank is just rehashing the same plan again. And he's like, we need to go to James. We got to tell him that we've got the numbers to take out Day, and hopefully he'll do it. Alright, so eventually Paul and Frank hug it out. And then Paul goes up to the HOH room, and he's just like, Frank's gotta go. Okay, so then the craziness does not stop there. It's like after 5 a.m., Bridget calls out Zakia on the cattiness in the house. And she's just like, why do you guys keep leaving when I walk into a room? And Zakia's like, what? I'm not doing that. No. She says that she did do that to Tiffany, but that's because she was harassing her and she couldn't take it. So Bridget's like, no, you guys are definitely leaving the room when I walk in. And Bridget says that she's being bullied. Again, Zakia denies it. what about when Zakia throws out the cookies that Bridget makes? That's, like, super messed up. But Zakia's like, Bridget, you've done plenty of catty things, too. Like, we've all heard about it, which is true. Like, they've all had their fair share of cattiness, except for Natalie. So, I mean, this conversation goes in circles for quite a while, and then Zakia's just like, I don't have a problem with you, and they decide that they're going to put it behind them, handshake, fine. We'll see about that. Yeah, you know that Zakia and Michelle were talking crap about Bridget a little while later. Alright, so Michelle was busy. She also had a game chat with Day at like 6 in the morning. And Michelle is pissed because she found out from Frank that Nicole made a final 2 deal with him, which is true. And Day's like, yeah, but you've got a final 3 with me and James. And this was definitely a surprise to Michelle. She was like, wait, we do? Does James know about this? And Day's just like, well, it's not official, but the 3 of us are definitely looking out for each other. And I'm thinking, Day is totally working it right now. She's trying to make sure that Michelle does not use that power of veto. So, of course, it's smart of her to include the POV winner and the HOH in her made-up final 3 deal. I mean, that's just smart. So, most of the house guests stayed up all damn night. And then they didn't wake up until like 3 p.m. And I mean, that's just like when the first few people started waking up. There were still people sleeping after that. So we're going to pick it up there tomorrow, but tomorrow is also the power veto ceremony, so yeah, good stuff. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and until then, much love.